Jesus freak here. Now, on Friday, I was at Beacon, local Christian bookstore, and I saw the prepackaged communion cups and wafers off in the back. And I was thinking, in most United Methodist churches, which is what I'm familiar with, what they typically do is take a piece of the loaf of bread, or they might use wafers. It depends from church to church. They'll dip it in a cup. They dip it in a shared chalice. And the first church I went to, which was also United Methodist, did things differently. And I said, I think probably we're going to see a lot of a move in that direction because let's be honest, it's more hygienic. That if you have, you have your prepackaged communion host and your prepackaged little cup of grape juice. So, what we did, well, I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't allowed to take communion. But what they do is all the people who are taking communion, they go up to the front of the sanctuary. They'd get their host, they'd get their wine. Of course, it was grape juice. It's United Methodist Church, it's standard. Be just a little cup. And they'd all take communion at the same time. Now, I'm sure, I have this older video, and it shows how in most churches in that denomination, they'll line up and they'll take it one by one. I think that switching to prepackaged host and cup and disposable, I can see this being, pretty common given the current circumstances. It's just more practical and more hygienic. Now, Pastor Brett and I and the proprietor of the store had a sort of impromptu communion right there and then. I know I'm a little bit more traditional as far as goes with communion than probably, he's talked about it on his channel. I've talked about it on my channel. This is, of course. Now, one person might say, well, your traditions are based on the Church of Rome. Actually, they date back even further. We know that the original language of a lot of the formulas used in the communion service is Greek, although our translations come from Latin. We also know that I believe the earliest example still surviving is actually survives in Syriac, which is Aramaic or Chaldean, the third language of the Bible. So it goes back a long ways and goes back before the Church of Rome became the Church of Rome. Now, I've thought what I've thought. I tend to support the hierarchy, and, even though I don't necessarily agree with it on principle. And I've said that, if we're a priesthood of believers, if we're all priests to Christ, then why honestly should it matter, who or who's ordained or not? So far as, performing any of the ritualia. But I understand that it's gatekeeping, but it's a necessary gatekeeping, I think, because uh, reduces the chances that you're going to have heretic ministers. Not that that doesn't stop anything. I've dealt with my share of heretic ministers in church. In particular, a preacher at an Episcopal church. She was, pushing all sorts of New Age mumbo jumbo. So, on one hand, I feel, we should all be able to perform, perform the ritualia associated with communion, should we so need to. But I understand why churches generally say, you shouldn't. But, desperate times call for desperate measures. Jesus freak out.